We've already discussed how view templates can be used to manage the visibility of objects in multiple views. We can do something similar using the scope box. This allows us to control the extents of multiple views with one element. The scope box can be a non-printing element, which is defined in the print settings. For this exercise, open the file Chapter 6 Scope Box, found in your Chapter 6 folder. On the View tab, select Scope Box in the Create panel. In the HVAC Level 3 documentation plan, we're going to draw 3 scope boxes that mimic the size and shape of the child views that we're placing on sheets. We'll start up here in the north. Create the scope box by clicking 2 diagonal points. You'll see here that I'm making this scope box slightly smaller than the viewport boundaries of the north view. This is just for illustration. I'm going to repeat that for the west and for the east. You'll notice that it can be quite difficult to see these scope boxes. When you hover over the drawing area, you can pick them up. Click on the Properties tab. In the Properties tab, I'm going to select each scope box individually. I may reposition some of them as we go. But with scope box selected, we can see we have a name. I'm going to change the name to something more appropriate. Floor Plan East. We'll select the next one, and we'll call this one Floor Plan West. And finally, we'll select the last one, and we'll call this Floor Plan North. I can now select the viewports for each child view, and then, under Properties, assign the appropriate scope box. North, East, and West. If I browse back to one of my child views, we can see my crop region. And although I can control the annotation side of the crop region, I can't control the overall bounding box. This is because the view is now controlled by the scope box. Using the Tab key, I can select the scope box and change the extents. So what's so good about that then, I hear you ask? Well, this enables me to control more than one view at a time. In the project browser, right-click on the HVAC Level 3 documentation view. Here I'm going to apply dependent views, and I'm going to apply those dependent views to Floor Plan HVAC Level 1 and Floor Plan HVAC Level 2. Click on OK. In one easy step, I've created dependent views for levels 1 and 2. I can now select appropriate views, go to the Properties, and apply the scope box. I can now be certain that all of my plan views controlled by the scope box for the East region are controlled at exactly the same time. They will look identical on every single sheet.